This paper was presented at the JCT Traffic Signals Symposium 2023 in Nottingham, thanks to the support of AGD Systems, INRIX, Message Maker Displays, PTV Group, Simplify Systems, Smart Micro UK and TRL Software.
Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about a number of things actually around the topic of pedestrian and cycle priority, primarily pedestrian. Just trying to remember where the blipper is so I can move on. Thank you. So I look after these two products, UTC powered by Scoot 7 and Mover. And as mentioned, I've only been in the industry for a short while, so learning my way, and this has been a great opportunity to do that at this symposium. So versions of this slide have kind of been pushed up on a number of presentations. At least the top part, talking about active travel, talking about the purpose of that and the goals of active travel promotion and why it's so important. So I won't sort of touch on those. It's almost self-evident now in some of the topics we've been going through. Obviously, the piece around promoting positive health, positive well-being, safer, cleaner environments for us to all live in is, again, a well-accepted statement. What I will get into a little bit more in the next two slides, and then we'll talk about some other topics as well, is pedestrian priority and some work we've been doing with TfGM on that matter. So going straight to that, I'll get it to work. TfGM, project with them, working alongside them to essentially set up 3 regions in Manchester to promote and to adapt them to include pedestrian priority in the signal timing planning. That is was a DFT-sponsored scheme. We are in the midst of rolling that out right now. And you can see here on the slide the background of that. Upgrade about 24 junctions that included putting in pedestrian sensors, detectors physically in the road, as well as connecting that up to our UTC and Scoot software. We obviously want to explore that opportunity to promote and evaluate our pedestrian priority capability in Scoot 7. Move on. The way this works, and I'm sure other people know this better than I do, and other people have done this before, but essentially it's detecting pedestrians and grading the presence and flow of pedestrians at the crossing mark, and assessing them in terms of essentially the numbers of people there, and it categorises those, and that is how it influences the priority of what's given at the split and cycle times for pedestrian on the green light. We don't want to do this at the expense of the general usage of these junctions, and so self-evidently there's a need here to continue to support efficient junctions for all users, whilst at the same time bringing the pedestrian priority further up the list. So we obviously want to take a look at these data points here and ensure that we can evaluate those as part of our rollout. Some of the ways we might be able to do that, we've got a couple of data feeds, streams coming into UTC that support giving us more detailed GPS essentially built information about the usage of the roads, and one of those is Waze. I'm not sure if Waze is how well Waze is used elsewhere, but it's something that TfGM have definitely got some value out of. Essentially, you partner with Waze, Waze for Cities on their program. They provide you free data relating to Waze usage going on your portion of in your urban environment. There's a portal you're provided with as a local authority to set up routes within that are, in essence, well-known pathways through your urban space. And that data is then captured in terms of road usage and the actual interactions that Waze users have with the app as they move around the network. So it's a combination of deliberately applied the actual user of the Waze app actually pressing buttons to indicate the things they are encountering as they go around the network, plus the capture of the movement and speed and GPS locations of Waze users as they do the same. we're bringing that information into UTC, and it will be used for a number of things, which I'll try and talk through. Primarily, the first thing we've done with it is, in just really because it's the most obvious thing to do in some ways, is to populate that into the map that forms the key part of the UTC application. There are three kind of feeds, if you like, or three separate strands of this data. You can see those kind of on the left-hand side. There is the feed of journey time, as mentioned, route time, route variance, which I've mentioned before, which is basically the routes that Manchester have set up on the Waze portal. And we are capturing data about the weight of traffic, essentially, in those areas based upon Waze data, speed, and the number of people that are present in those routes. So that's kind of automatically generated a little bit by Waze and provided through. This is all real-time data. Every 5 minutes, I believe, we update this. The second batch of data is the jams and irregularities. So a similar thing, but this is more where this doesn't relate specifically to the routes that have been set up. This is really picturing stretches of road where we have recognized a number of Waze have recognized a number of users are traveling at speeds which aren't considered to be the optimal for that particular passage of road. So jams, again, are calculated and graded based upon their severity. Irregularities are deviations from norm. So even if you do have a specific area where it's regularly getting jammed up, it's where there might be an even further or more significant difference. You don't get many of those. They're quite rare. Typically where maybe an accident has taken place or something has occurred on the road, and that's thrown an irregularity into the way that particular road is behaving. The rest down the bottom are essentially all the alerts section are generated by the action of a Waze user pressing the button on the app and signifying that they have seen a pothole, they have seen everything from roadkill, tornadoes, a whole raft of things, because this is an international application. So you don't get too many tornadoes in Manchester, as far as I'm aware. But anyway, it captures all of that, and self-evidently there are some key ones on there that are most relevant when you're looking at traffic control. Things around, again, jams I mentioned, I think road closures, accidents, and traffic signal failures as well, which is obviously quite useful. So that's the data we captured there. In terms of the Waze users, they are, in some ways, a bit like eBay. They are rated on their trustworthiness. The more you use it, the more you're trusted. And in fact, all of the data, including the map on Waze, is all generated by the users. So even the edits on the map are done by users who are their most trusted people. So you sort of go up in grades, and there's a whole sort of a community around that. Once in the system, we are making it available to extract in historic and both current and historic form. So evidently you can start to use that to power various charts and graphs, the type of thing that you would need for any potential planning, strategic decision making, that kind of thing, trend analysis, planning. So that's all available. Moving on, we can also use this data because it's real time to automatically initiate strategies and automations within the UTC environment. We can obviously align the Waze routes themselves with links on known junctions. So you've got that correlation between the same stretch of road being monitored in both ways in some fashion, both by traditional detectors and by the Waze data. We can monitor that on a regular basis, and we can utilize that to, when average journey time is lower than the current journey time, we can do those comparisons and potentially initiate various functionalities in the scoop, potentially something like journey time reliability to keep the roads moving along in the fashion you would like. Moving on to Strava. So Strava, another data source we're pursuing. There's a number. I mean, these are only two. We are looking at others as well. Strava is, for anyone who doesn't know what Strava, I'm sure people do, health and fitness app, primarily for cyclists and walkers. You allow it to track your journey. You give some evidence of who you are in terms of your demographic. And that information is captured by Strava, and similarly to Waze, they let it out for free to local authorities on a sort of data exchange basis. So we're capturing all of this material. Earlier days with Strava, but we're intending to use that as an offset for Waze in some ways and use these things as validation points, cross-fertilizing that data to try and combine it in a manner that gives us more insight about particular locations in the network, looking at places where there might be hotspots on the hour of the day. The data from Strava is broken down quite granularly to hour-by-hour activity based upon whether you're on bike, including e-bikes and such like, or on foot. It tracks origin and destination in terms of where journeys have started, where they ended, and how long they took. You can also envisage, you can see how long it will take you to get places if you start at a particular location, given current road conditions. There's a raft of capabilities in this data, which is quite powerful, that we're trying to explore use cases around. It's a little early days in this one, but might be something for a future presentation. So all of this really leads to the position I'm trying to sort of infer to you is that I think there's an open data, well, there is an open data problem to solve here around how do we get all these data points together? How do we get power out of all of these data points in a collaborative fashion? We self-evidently need to be able to draw these data points together. We need to be able to combine them in a manner that perhaps we haven't traditionally. It's great to hear over the last few days things like alternative, or dare I say alternative, not really alternative these days from what I can see, but newer forms of detection with richer data points. That is kind of the key, I think, in terms of the future of road traffic management. So we're looking at a number of routes of getting this data into UTC to power behavior, both in the UTC itself and obviously on Scoot. And the opportunities are there for us all to see. And the outcomes are really future-proofing what we've offered, what we're offering, ensuring that active travel is a core component of everything we do. I think that is me.
Any questions for Neil?
We've got one here.
One there.
Thank you, Mark Bladell. Neil, just a thought, particularly on the use of Strava. In my mind, there are two types of pedestrian and cyclists out there. Serious enthusiasts who will invest in Strava to know what they're doing,
Yep.
and the rest of us. And so do you think there's a risk of an unintended skew in the data you get from Strava because it's the fast cyclists and the brisk walkers and the others don't get a look in?
It's a fair point, actually, and it's something that we've been considering, and I think this is partly the reason why you can't rely upon a single data feed in and of itself as your ground truth, if you like. We will be looking at other data sources. We're in discussion with a couple of organisations already, which could enhance or verify, so you get that cross-verification of different data, because exactly that point, and also just the numbers as well, the literal number of people using it, whether they be avid cyclists or just somebody popping down the shop. Self-evidently, you need numbers to sort of really truly verify. But there's been some sensible extrapolation and use of Strava data, and there are a number of use cases across the globe which show that it's got some value. But it does come down to exactly what you say, just how much you trust that without cross-verification from other origins.
Thank you.
Is there any more questions? I have one. In terms of your metrics, you've got lots of data coming in, you're adding in Strava. I mean, one of the big benefits of coordinating lights, particularly if you get green waves for pedestrians or cyclists, put in cyclops, is that you're reducing the dwell time of people in the middle of roads, waiting in the junction for the next stage. Have you thought about any metrics to evaluate the sort of health benefits of that?
I don't think we've got quite that far yet. I think self-evidently we are, the key thing we're trying to achieve here is to look at alternative ways of bringing data together with the traditional stuff that we always use. I think we're at an early stage in terms of evaluating use cases and getting to the sort of point that you're talking about, which is kind of, but we've started some discussions with our consultancy arm at TRL, who've got this kind of research capability, and I think these are the types of things we'll bring into that space to get those kind of...
Because certainly if you're sort of in the middle of the junction for 30 seconds waiting for your phase,
yeah,
you're breathing in pollution.
Exactly that.
And it's the worst place to be.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thanks very much, Neil. And
No worries.
I wish you luck with all the integration.